It's 3 o'clock, Chad here. What's up, my friends? NBA doubleheader on TNT tonight. The Heat at the Celtics. 4:30 tip. With a win, Boston will move on to round number 2. They favored by a whopping 13.5 at 7 on TNT. Game 5, Mavericks and Clippers from Los Angeles. That series is tied at 2. Dallas is favored by 3.5. Luka is dealing with the sore knee, but says he's ready to go for Game 5. The Timberwolves expect their head coach, Chris Finch, to travel to Denver for Game 1 of the West Semis after getting his knee cracked on the sideline. Bottom of the 8th in Seattle at T-Mobile Park. The Braves lead the Mariners by a score of 5-2. Seattle is looking for the series sweep. Coming up next, the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Chris Burkhardt going to join us in studio at 4.
Hey, LeBron James, get the hell out of the way!
The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
Cavs inbounds, Cavs win! Cavaliers win it, 104-103. The Cavaliers hold serve here on the home floor. They go up 3-2, and the Cavaliers are 1 game away from advancing to the Eastern Conference semifinal.
Yeah, it's a tough way to lose. Yeah, we got the win.
Well, Indiana appears to have folded up the tents.
Lopez is running, coming back. This one hit to left center and deep. Way back. Get up! Get up! Get out of here and gone for Willie Adamas. Ooh, now we have some punches being thrown as Abner Uribe and Siri into it. And the benches have cleared, and the Brewers are not having it. And that escalated very, very quickly.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
Well, I tell you what, Godfather, I've seen a lot of great things in sports, but what took place last night in Arizona with the Dodgers and Diamondbacks takes the cake. 5 minutes before the game was set to begin, there was a delay because of bees. It's unbelievable, but there was a big delay because of bees. For some reason, they decided to swarm on the net behind home plate, and then before you know it, boom, we got big issues. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. I kind of had a feeling you'd have a bee in your bonnet about that today.
Yes. Take a listen to this, man. This is Grand Funk Lives. I like this song. So, Godfather, what I don't understand, have you ever seen that happen before at a baseball game?
I saw it one other time on an outfield fence by the bullpen, and I can't remember who was playing, but the Mariners broadcast referred to it last night. And they were lucky that night, whoever the home team was, that there was actually a beekeeper at the game. And the guy apparently had his gear in the car, and he said, hold on, I'll be right back. And he came out and took care of it. But they had to actually call the emergency beekeeper out for this one.
No, it's amazing. It says D-backs Vice President of Operations Mike Rock, incredible name, was alerted to the problem, and he told both managers that there would be a delay. The danger was that a foul ball that hit near the area would disturb the bees and cause them to move down toward fans and players. While discussions were going on between Major League Baseball and the two organizations, Rock placed a desperate phone call to Blue Sky Pest Control. Did they have someone who would come in and safely and humanely remove the bees? Hilton got the phone call as the T-ball game was getting underway, and he immediately hopped in his truck and started for Chase Field. And the rest is history. He came in, had his gear on, got the bees, got them safely and humanely removed from the ballpark, and then they continued, and the Diamondbacks ended up winning a thriller.
Yeah, they had a cherry picker that actually allowed him to get. I was wondering, is this poor guy going to have to climb up the net behind the plate? But they got him right up there next to it. It looked like he had like a vacuum cleaner kind of thing to just pull him out of there, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that. And I've seen that before on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where they use like the suction to suck all the bees in and stuff. And apparently what you were telling me and what I picked up on Twitter last night, because there are all sorts of bee facts flying around. I love social media last night. It was fabulous. Apparently, wherever the queen bee goes, everyone else follows.
Well,
so if you get the queen, it's all good.
Well,
Even
that's
for
why
bees, they follow the tail.
It's almost a popular expression. You know, you say to someone, well, she's the queen bee, meaning men are always attracted to her. They're always around her, you know, and you hear that expression much more in the old days, I think, than you do now, but it's true.
It took Hilton 30 minutes to get to Chase Field. While en route, he talked to D-backs personnel through what he would need so that they could get the scissor lift and the other equipment ready for him. He also told them they would have to allow another 30 minutes or so after he removed the bees for everything to calm down before they could start the game.
Some of those bees who didn't get sucked into his machine were probably a little bit upset.
Oh, they were pissed. Hey, you took our lady, man. What are you doing?
Where did she go? I'd like to report a kidnapping.
That's incredible. I love it. I want to see more of that. I need more animals/bees involving themselves in games.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it, it was quite a sight. I mean, it was like a big cluster of bees, right? I mean,
it was massive.
Yeah.
Massive cluster. And it reminded me of growing up in the country in Oklahoma. I came up on a hornet's nest once with my buddy David. We're like, oh, interesting. We decided to lob items at the nest, and that turned out to be a gigantic mistake. So we should have called this guy who came in to save the Diamondbacks. We didn't. We tried to handle matters on our own, and you don't want to do that. I told you last year I got stung by a hornet out there on the golf course. Hit a shot, and I thought I popped my Achilles, and I got to the next hole, and I pulled my sock off, and my foot and my whole ankle area was swollen. And then when I was done, they're like, oh, yeah, we have some hornets out there. You got to watch out for them. Thanks for the update. Appreciate that. That was great last night. Love it. That was funny. Really funny.
It was. It was quite amazing, really.
Now, while the bee madness was going on in Zona, Tyrese Maxey was going wild in New York. What a basketball game. We have been treated to some dynamic basketball games in the opening round. And I've always enjoyed watching Tyrese Maxey play.
Oh, gosh, yes.
But he was in one of those modes that you see players get into where he could not miss. He got the 4-point play when it was 96-90, when it looked like the Knicks were going to win the game. And then Josh Hart, 1 of 2 at the foul line. And then Maxey hoisted one from near half court, swish. Game goes into overtime. The Sixers get the win and force a Game 6 back in Philly. What a game and what a play and effort from Maxey last night. When they needed him most, he stepped up with big shots.
He was incredible. And into overtime. He was incredible. A huge win for the Sixers, really. Even if Philly goes down in the next game, they kept New York from clinching on its own court, which has got to be nice. Except, unfortunately for Philly, where they play at home feels like the Knicks' home court right now.
Yeah, 48 minutes for Embiid. We'll talk about that in a moment with the fatigue. Maxey, 52 minutes, 17 of 30 from the floor. He was 7 of 12 from downtown Godfather. Finished with 46 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. I'll ask the question again. This is something that comes up all the time. I don't want them to do it, but why don't teams foul before someone hoists a three? What we hear it talked about all the time, but it would seem to me that you could foul someone before a guy hoists a three.
I don't get it. I do not understand. All I've been told by coaches is I don't necessarily trust my guys to do it before the shot. I'm worried they're going to foul the guy while he's shooting the three. And best case is the guy gets 3 free throws. Worst case is He makes the three, and then he goes to the free throw line for the fourth shot. I don't think players are that dumb and that unskilled that they would actually do that. And there was plenty of time. I mean, you could have fouled Maxey on the way up the floor.
Yes.
And he brought the ball up, I mean, it would have been easy to foul him before he took a shot.
Absolutely. He brought it up. I think he got a screen from Embiid around the half-court circle. He comes off that. And I guess the defense wasn't expecting him to hoist from half court.
He just walked right into the shot. Yeah.
He walked right into it. And it's one of those shots, as soon as he let it go, I was like, that's going in.
Yeah.
Sure enough. Boom. He got it. I don't understand it. Like, I don't want teams to foul because I want the drama of a guy getting the shot up.
Sure.
I'm just surprised that more teams don't foul.
I think it's a must. How many times do we have to see a guy make that shot in today's basketball before somebody starts doing that? Because – I understand it maybe 10 years ago when hitting threes was not that big a deal, but now they're going to hit them, especially the good player. A guy like him who's on fire, shooting the way he's shooting, I'm not giving him a three.
Is it like some sort of unwritten rule where it's understood, like, we're not going to foul before you get the three-point shot up? I can't imagine the league would want teams fouling before the three goes up. Is there an unwritten rule about it?
No, there couldn't be. Because that's strategic. You can't make a rule that inhibits your ability to make strategy. I just don't. I think coaches are just fear. They're in fear.
But you talk about strategy, but no one does it.
I know.
It's across the board.
Well, you used to see it. You used to see it once in a while. Not much anymore.
Yeah. I guess that's not a
the gutless coaches have won.
I guess coaches have been around the players long enough to know that they do dumb things and they don't want them to risk doing something dumb. But my thought is like, if you got a guy who's way deep, foul him and make him make the shot. The chances are, if you foul him on a three, that he's not going to make something from that deep, you would think. And if he does, then I guess you just live with the result.
Right.
Of course, then you look like the real dum-dum. If you go out there and foul, the guy makes the shot and you lose the game on a 4-point play, that no one ever loses like that, and you would look like a real idiot.
They'd rather not take that chance and just let it play out.
Yeah, because if a guy makes the shot, well, he hit a tough shot. What can you do? But can you imagine the post-game presser if you foul and Maxey hits the three and then he gets the free throw to win the game?
Yeah.
The coach is like, well, I told him to foul before the shot, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then you sound dumb.
Yeah. But, here's the deal. Even if he's not a great three-point shooter, if he's 33% from three, which is not good, he still has a better chance of making it than they do of him making the first free throw, then missing the second one, getting the rebound, and putting it back in. I mean, chances of that are not 33%. They're a lot worse than that.
It reminds me of Bill Belichick when he went for it on 4th and 2 in that Sunday night football game against Indy.
Yeah.
Should have been gone. Love this song. He decided to go for it because he knew his defense wasn't going to be able to stop Manning, and they would just watch the clock bleed out. He goes for it. They don't get it, and he gets crucified for it. But in the moment, I was like, he's doing the right thing. He knows his defense can't stop Peyton right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with our best, which is Tom Brady. And if we get the first down, we'll still have a chance to win the game.
And, Chad, that's another thing you see quite frequently where you know that you can't put your defense back on the field again.
No, we're not going to get a stop.
We're going to get beat with our offense.
Yeah.
Because especially if you have Peyton Manning, I'm going to let them beat him before I'm going to let him beat those clowns I have on defense.
That's why I'm glad that teams are letting other teams score late in games.
Yeah.
Let them score and get the ball back to have a chance to tie, you morons.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, no, we can't do that. We got to play hardcore defense and hope they miss a field goal.
Yeah,
That's
we think we can stop them. No, you can't.
It's so dumb. All right, we'll come back. Chris Burkhardt's going to join us in studio at 4 o'clock. When we come back, guess what, Godfather? It's a Bo Nix update.
Oh!
Well, Godfather, we learned something new today. If Michael Shacker doesn't like any of our topics or discussion, he just cuts off the end of the segment.
Yeah. Well, he has that power.
I looked over and I was like, what's going on there? He's like, user error.
Yeah, okay.
Itchy trigger finger.
All right. Give me about another 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
and I'll be convinced that Bo Nix is Joe Montana.
You're a good way towards that goal right now, Chad. I hate to tell you this, but
I was against the pick at 12 to begin with, but I have slowly started to dive in on everything Bo Nix.
you're warming up to Bo. I can tell that.
I'm talking to people. I'm watching videos. I'm absorbing all the information I can get on him. And last night, I shared it on social media, but Chase Daniel, a longtime backup in the NFL, he had a sweet video breakdown of Bo Nix during his time at Oregon this past season. And he really isolated and highlighted the USC game and talked about all the different concepts the Oregon Duck offense was running, Bo Nix and what he does well, Bo Nix and what he doesn't do well. And I thought the video breakdown was terrific. I love hearing quarterbacks discuss film when it comes to other quarterbacks because they understand the concepts. They know what the offense is trying to do. And quarterbacks understand how to read each play, where the receiver's at, who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, and so on. And so Chase Daniel did a great breakdown. And what I like about Bo Nix, and from the people who have been praising him so far, and Chase Daniel broke this down on video last night, he's got a very compact release.
Yeah.
So it's not a wind-up. It's compact. He gets rid of the football quick. But what the video showed last night, and this is next-level stuff that you have to be able to do in the NFL, multiple plays in that USC game where he drops back and he uses his eyes to pull the safeties or the linebackers over to one side, and then he'll turn his head and set and fire and get the ball out to the receiver he wants. And you know that's key. That's NFL-level work. You've got to be able to use your eyes to bring defenders over to create the open spaces and the windows that you need to be able to deliver the football. And when you combine that work and his recognition at the line of scrimmage and the ability to use his eyes with the quick release and the accuracy, I mean, those are things, again, it's one thing against USC's defense, and we'll see how it translates to the NFL, but those are skill sets that you need to be successful on the NFL level. Reading defense, understanding what's going on, using your eyes to draw linebackers and safeties away from a particular area, quick release, and then accuracy with the football. And Bo Nix obviously can do that. He was the most accurate passer in college football last year, but I thought that breakdown was great. And then he pointed this out. He had one pass on the deep ball that was like 55 to 60 yards in the air. But I was listening to Mark Schlereth today, who I love, former Bronco. The arm strength. Like, obviously, you want to be able to make all the throws, especially the deep out. But how often does a quarterback really launch at 65 to 70 yards downfield? A Hail Mary at the end of the half?
That's right. That's about it.
But most of the throws, as Mark was talking about, in today's game, because everyone's adopting the Fangio, cover 3 shell. They're just saying, look, you're not going to beat us deep. So a lot of underneath stuff, crossing routes, you've got to be accurate with your delivery. So would you rather have a guy that can bomb it 80 yards downfield or a guy that can have quick recognition, accuracy, and get rid of the football quick to be able to fit it into those tight windows? And so the more I see from people who know the game, quarterbacks, in the video breakdown with his skill set, his strengths, it could translate very well to the next level. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, it was a great breakdown. And I really enjoy it, like you said, from ex-quarterbacks, because they know what's going through Bo Nix's head when he comes to the line of scrimmage. Like a couple of times he said, look, he knows already what he's going to do. He's reading the coverage right now. He can see it. He knows his motion. They run a lot of play action, which he liked. Chase Daniel liked that. And he would talk about how quickly he was reading, and that made him able to look off the linebackers so often because he knew where the other guys were going to be. He didn't have to know what they were doing because he already knew that. And it was a great breakdown, not only because he praised Nix a lot. I mean, he was heavy with his praise. He praised the Ducks. He praised their offensive coordinator in a sense that he talked about, we used to run this play a lot with whatever team he played on in the NFL. And he often talked about these are real NFL plays. This is a play he's going to run in the NFL. All of that came off really well for Bo Nix, I thought. He was very high on Bo.
The other part that's interesting with Denver, they scheduled and had private meetings with Caleb and with Jaden and with Drake May. They met with all the quarterbacks because they wanted to look at the other guys and then compare Bo Nix to see how close it was and what they were getting and whether or not Bo could do the other things that these guys could do as well. Now, was Bo Nix number one on their quarterback board? No. But they knew they weren't going to be able to get Caleb Williams. He would have gone number one no matter who was drafting. But they saw Bo Nix and realized that based on his skill set and then the fit with what Sean Payton wants to do, that they got their guy in that department. Now, the other thing that I've heard people say too, and I believe this, if you look at every other quarterback that was taken through the first 12 picks, Caleb Williams going to Chicago, it's a great situation for Caleb because they've loaded up on receivers, right? Keenan Allen, they got DJ Moore, they drafted Rome Odunze, they've got a good tight end, they've got Shane Waldron, they've got many guys who can run the football. Offensive line is getting better. He's got talent around him to where he's not going to have to do it all on his own, which is great for him. But he's got a defensive head coach in Eberflus, who I'm not convinced is a great coach. That can work against a young quarterback sometimes because defensive coaches always see the game through defensive lenses. And the way you call a game, what you'll do in certain situations, you're influenced by that background. Number 2, Jaden Daniels, he's going to a brand new team, brand new head coach, and it's a new situation. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, and in Chicago, I mean, Waldron's going in as the offensive coordinator. He was in Seattle last year. He's got a lot of friends here because he went to high school here in Portland. And I know everybody is hoping he'll get to do on offense what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem with defensive guys as your head coach. I think often they put the brakes on.
Yeah.
They just don't want you to take gambles that puts their defense in a precarious position.
That's right. Now, the other situation in New England with Drake May, that's not a good situation. Brand new head coach with no experience, a roster that's depleted across the board in talent. That's a work in progress. And it's going to be tough because if they play Drake right away, he's going to be under pressure. And that's going to be tough for him to survive that type of situation. And he's got a defensive head coach. The other situation with a couple of the other quarterbacks, I think J.J. McCarthy's in a good spot. Minnesota's got talent on offense. They've got a good offensive mind. Obviously, Penix went to a spot that's not good because of the quarterback that they signed during free agency. There's immediate tension there, whether they want to admit it or not. And then you take Bo Nix. No pressure to play right away, although everyone thinks he'll probably win the job. But you have the quarterback guru in Sean Payton who's going to get a chance to work with and develop him from day one, to mold him into the quarterback that he wants. And he's got a proven track record of success, and he's very aggressive as a play caller. And he's very much into the nuances of the position, as is Bo Nix. So if you look at all the situations of the 6 guys who were drafted in the top 12 picks, Bo Nix went to the best situation to be able to learn and to grow as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of whether or not he can go out there and get the job done. That's really what it comes down to. Can he do it based on what we're seeing? Hard to say because, again, playing against USC is not the same as playing in the NFL because the windows are tighter, the talent is much better, and the speed is on a different level.
Yeah, patience is going to be necessary, right? It's going to take him a while. I don't think to go in there first day.
But what if he comes out and he's great right away?
Yeah.
What if he comes out? Justin Herbert didn't need time.
Yeah.
He was great right away. So I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for. How long will it take? Does Sean Payton know in camp? Does he know in the preseason? Would he know after a few games in the regular season? How long would it take Sean Payton to know that this guy can be the guy?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is dependent not on Bo Nix, but on the people around him.
Yeah.
You know, are his receivers going to catch the ball? Are they going to be in the right spot? Is the offensive line going to protect him? Is the defense going to keep him off the field enough to give him a chance, you know, to be upright? There's so many variables there. But like you mentioned, Drake May, I have heard so many guys say, first year he probably shouldn't play. He probably needs a year to get his mechanics straightened out. He's a little rough with his footwork. And really, they're not going to be any good. Yeah,
they're terrible.
They're not going to be any good anyway. So why get him banged up his rookie year? It doesn't make sense.
Josh Allen got hammered as a rookie with Buffalo because they didn't have the team around him yet.
Yeah.
We saw what happened to Joe Burrow. He's been consistently banged up throughout the young part of his career. Bo Nix is also probably the most pro-ready because of the amount of years that he played in college. He's older, more mature.
Yeah.
He's got more snaps under his belt, so you would think that he'd be more pro-ready. But my guess is for a guy like Sean Payton, even if it's not showing up in wins and losses, he'll probably know very soon, early on, whether or not Bo Nix can be that guy. That you would think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a guy like Sean Payton.
Yeah. I don't think that's too much to ask. I think he will.
Would you start Bo Nix right away?
Oh, I think he has to win the job, which I do think he will. And if he wins the job, yeah, definitely. Why not? You know, he's a little older, so I think he can handle it better than some of these guys could. And, yeah, start the clock with him. The more he plays, the more he learns, the better he gets. I think those are all things that follow. So, yeah, I would definitely start him if he's ready.
The other part that's nice about Nix, and I like this because I like this in my quarterbacks, he's mobile. He can move if he has to.
Yeah.
He can pick up yards with his legs if things break down.
Chad, that breakdown showed that great spin move he made to vacate the pocket that one time and get outside and make a throw. That was pretty.
Yeah. And look around the league. I mean, think about some of the quarterbacks. Tua down in Miami, he's got Tyreek Hill, fastest receiver in football. They had a lot of big plays last year, and Tua doesn't have the strongest arm in the NFL, nowhere close. Brock Purdy with the 49ers doesn't have one of the best arms in the league, not even close. Yet he was ultra productive in terms of getting the football into the hands of his playmakers. And I think the way Sean Payton looks at Bo Nix or his quarterbacks, it's a point guard on grass. Just distribute the football to the playmakers that we have, get the ball in the right position. And the other thing that Bo did show a propensity for in the breakdown by Daniel was not forcing the football. If the defense is going to give you the dump off in the flat, take the dump off in the flat. Take it. Tom Brady made a living out of that. Games where he would just settle for whatever the defense was giving him, and he would kill him with paper cuts. Just boom, 5 yards here, 6 yards there. The other thing they showed in the video, too, that I thought was great with Nix is like on some of the angle routes by backs or guys in the flat, knowing where to place the football. I think what Daniel said with Andy Reid, he would always teach that when you throw those little flat passes, you got to get the ball right up on the shoulder by the head.
Yeah.
So the back doesn't have to reach down. He can catch it and immediately advance. So if you're on a 3rd down and 7 and the guy catches it at the line of scrimmage, his momentum is carrying him forward so he can pick up the 1st down. It's little things like that that you don't even think about when you're watching the game, but the good ones know where to place the football to give the guy a chance to have success.
Yeah. Chase Daniels said he used to say, throw it at his forehead, so that when he catches the ball, he's pointed in the right direction. He doesn't have to slow down. He doesn't have to reach down. Boom. Because you're making the pass almost at the line of scrimmage. He's going to have to pick up 5 yards after he catches the ball. And how many times do you hear the TV guys say, don't throw a 6-yard pass when you need 8 yards, you know? But you do it all the time. It's just part of the process on passes like that.
So, and the great part is if Bo Nix hits, and right away this year you know that he's your quarterback of the future, the Russell Wilson thing goes away quickly.
Yeah.
No one's going to care. And I thought about that last night, too. I was thinking about Russ and the whole 2 years it was disappointing. I would much rather be a fan of a franchise that takes a big swing and misses than a franchise that doesn't take any big swings and just middles in mediocrity. Right? The Broncos went for it. They thought they were going to have something special with Russ. It blew up in their face. So they move on. They get Sean Payton. They draft Bo Nix, and they move on. What else do you want? Sometimes you're going to take the big swing and it's going to cash in. Sometimes you're going to take the big swing and it's not going to work out.
Sometimes all in is all out.
Yes. Like when they got Peyton Manning, there was great concern around him because of the neck surgery.
Yeah.
No one knew how he would play. It was a big unknown at the time. They took the swing. They went all in. They had no plan B, and it worked out. They had 4 years of greatness.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, he got him through a Super Bowl when he wasn't Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, he really wasn't.
No, he was broke down.
But that was just smarts. That was just a guy knowing how to be a quarterback.
Yes, and that's what I see in Bo Nix for what he lacks in some of the physical tools that maybe Caleb Williams has, the smarts. Knowing what play to get your offense in, using your cadence to draw the defense off sides, getting the ball in the right position to your back so they can pick up 1st downs, using your eyes to move the defense, like all those little things.
Yeah.
Quarterbacking is, I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's the hardest job in sports. It's the most important position in sports. But the nuances, man, I want a guy that just, just can't get enough of it, right? I want a guy like Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I agree.
it's much like what I've heard about Scoot. The way it's been described to me with Scoot Henderson is if he doesn't work out or become big time, it's not because he didn't work hard enough. It's just because he wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Right.
He's putting in the time. Bo Nix,
He's going to get what he has. You're going to get what he has, right?
Yes. Bo Nix is not going to be out screwing around or jerking off or doing things that would prevent him from being prepared for games. He's going to be focused on the task at hand and be prepared. And I can live with that. And I love the mobility. He's much more mobile than what you realize.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. So there you go. That's another day of the life of Chad thinking about Bo Nix.
But, Chad, we do need theme music for this.
I'm working on it.
Okay, good. Yeah, because we got
But wait a second.
that.
You don't like themes. You're not big on themes. Do you think would you be okay with a Bo Nix theme?
Yeah, well, of course. This is radio. This is a radio show here we're running.
Hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't seem like that. Sometimes it just seems like Chad Dwight talking in your basement. But, it's an actual radio show here.
That's true.
A little theme music on a regular feature, the Bo Nix Update. There you go.
I just need more time. I'm getting there.
All right.
I'm not quite on board yet, but I'm moving in that direction.
And walk down the hall to that sales department. Tell them, hey, you know what? The Bo Nix Update, that's a pretty saleable commodity right now.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've been spoiled with quarterbacks as a Bronco fan. Going from Elway into Manning, it's like my expectations they're all out of whack. Because when I see quarterbacks,
You've been spoiled.
I know. I'm like, well, you're not Elway or Manning, but no one is.
Yeah.
But maybe Bo Nix can be that guy. It's amazing to me that the Broncos, in their history, one drafted quarterback has won a playoff game. And that was Tim Tebow.
Well, you're like Duck fans. Talk about people being spoiled by good quarterbacks. They've run through some pretty darn good quarterbacks there.
Good gracious.
Yeah.
Think about the string of QBs that they have had with Mariota, Bo Nix, Joey Harrington.
You go back, Chris Miller. I mean,
Dan Fouts.
Yeah, go back. Norm Van Brocklin, NFL champion quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they've had a few. Bob Berry, longtime Minnesota Viking quarterback. They've had some real good ones there.
They've had some good quarterbacks. Very good quarterback play.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. I'm done daydreaming about Bo Nix for a moment.
Oh, that doesn't mean you won't bring him back later in the show if we need to update the update.
All right, I hate to alarm you, but if you want to access the library on the campus of PSU, you may not be able to get in, but then again, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Here's the question we want you to ponder before we come back. When was the last time you went to a library?
I can't remember it.
The card catalog can kiss my ass. I don't need that in my life ever
You
again.
do like the Dewey Decimal System, though.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
You got the Rip City Drive. So, Godfather, it appears that the protests have spread to the campus of Portland State.
Of course, yes.
They didn't want to be left out.
No, I don't blame them. You gotta get your hands dirty and get involved.
It's really a shame that they've decided to take over the library, and now people are going to have a hard time accessing the library. That is a big loss for all of America. It's been 22 years since I last accessed a library.
Do you still have your library card?
No. No, I don't. And I did steal a book accidentally from the
Accidentally, yeah.
from the Fort Vancouver Library over in Vancouver, so I have not returned. It was a book on super slow exercise, which I do with my buddy Luke.
Sure, yeah.
And I forgot to take it back, and I was like, that's a pretty good book. And so it's just, you sometimes inherit things unintentionally.
Uh-huh.
So I'm now, that book from Fort Vancouver Library is now in my protective care. But that's the last time. And the last time I did it was for college, for a project I was doing in science. And then that was it. I did spend some time at Washington State in the library, not for book purposes, but just to read and
For
study
peace and
because it was quiet.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the peace and quiet
Yeah.
because I'm easily distracted. I thought the library was a nice place to be able to do that. And they had a nice lounge area where you could sit and look out to the wooded area behind the school, which was very nice. And I enjoyed that. But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do people, with the internet being so prevalent the way it is today, how many people still access a library, for crying out loud? Seriously.
I would believe the use of libraries is way down. I mean, I carry a library around in my pocket. I call it my iPhone, and that's just the way it is. And I think people go in if they don't have a computer because there are now computers in a library. And I think we've seen homeless people go in and try to find a quiet place to fall asleep. But for the most part, I am pretty sure that libraries aren't getting the kind of use they used to. And frankly, I feel bad about that because libraries are a symbol of an educated society. And, I think you need some of them to keep rare books and things like that. I also question how much we're spending to keep libraries going and how much we're spending on building new ones. The one at Portland State is a very nice library. I've been in there. I know it. And my thought would be if they want to have the library, well, they're probably the only ones that want to use it for the rest of the week.
Yeah. But what would you go for a library for that you couldn't access via computer? Like for me, it took me a while to get to that point, but now I just have any books that I want, I buy and read off of my Kindle.
Yeah.
Because I like having all of my books on my phone that I can access anywhere. So a lot of times if I have downtime or I've got a few minutes in between this or that, I'll open up a book and just continue to read or hit some more of that book that I can have right there at the palm of my hand. That way I don't have to haul around books. It took me a moment to get used to not having a book in my hand, but I just enjoy reading off my phone now. I don't mind it.
Well, the only time I have a use right now is there are some things that were in the Oregon Journal that I wrote a long time ago.
Yeah.
That
They
there's
didn't-
the only way to find them now is
They're not
that
online.
the Portland Library has microfilm, and you can actually get it online. I have a friend, Joel. Joel's my attorney, actually. And because he sent me things that I wrote from the journal. And I said, how did you get these? And he told me the library. So he should have never done that because now, hey, Joel, I wrote about Mickey Mantle way back when he came to town and he abused a bunch of people. Can you find that story for me? Boom, right back to me. And he's got it all copied. He can get it online and it's perfect. But that's the only thing I've needed. And you can get the daily newspaper there probably. It used to be because you can't find them in a newspaper box anymore. If there was something you like to see. Maps, I think maybe you'd want to see. Picture books, say you're planning a trip somewhere and you want to see some beautiful vistas of Maui or Tahiti or whatever, you might go for that. But really, everything you need, you can pretty much get on your laptop or your phone.
Yeah, no doubt. I remember having classes in school where we would spend time going over the Dewey Decimal System. And then we had to go to the library and look for certain books and find it and go through the whole shebang. What an annoying process that was.
Yeah, I know.
And at the time, it seemed important because that was before the onset of the internet. But the computers, the phone, the internet has changed everything. It's a game changer.
Well, we used to have trouble finding the books. We'd go to the library and you look it up in the card catalog and you'd go to the spot and the book wasn't there. Somebody checked it out. I doubt that we're having those problems now anymore because nobody's there to check out the books. They're probably all there.
Back in my gambling days when I was trying to keep it hidden, I would utilize the Multnomah Library in downtown.
Yeah.
I would get computer access, and I would go in there and place my bets.
Oh, no, on the library computers?
Oh, yeah, yeah. They didn't say anything about not placing bets. It was like, please don't look at disturbing pictures. You know, a lot of people go in there
Right.
and check their porn or whatever, weirdos. But I would go in there and place bets in the Multnomah Library. I wasn't there to read books or check out books. I was trying to get my action in, dang it. So I would use the library to be able to do that. So I had a library card, and I would go in there. But what sucked is you had to wait, like, most of the time the computers were full. So I'm like, man, I need to get my action in. Can you get off that computer, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that was the only busy part of the library is where the computers were.
Yeah.
The rest of it was just like a cemetery.
Yeah, like a morgue, quiet. No one else is around looking for books. And that's pretty much the way it goes now. Like, even when I go to a bookstore, if I see a book I want, or if I stumble into a bookstore, then I'll just look it up on my Kindle and purchase that.
Yeah.
Like, I still like going to a bookstore to look around to see what
Sure.
they have, but I'm not going to buy it there. I'll just buy it online. Because not
honestly-
only that, it's cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. I started reading books on Kindle, 10 years ago? Oh, more than that, 15 years ago.
Did you
probably.
find it difficult to transition from books to Kindle, or was it
I
easy
really
for you?
didn't, Chad. I liked the convenience of it, being able to have it around. And I quickly switched. I bought the first generation Kindle. I was at the Tribune at the time, and we wanted to see them in terms of whether or not they could handle putting newspapers on them.
Yeah.
And so I bought it for that reason. Quickly, I shifted to my phone. It's like, I don't want to carry this Kindle around. And they put out Kindle for your phone. I was many hundreds of books I read on my phone.
Yeah.
And I like that. I'm waiting in line somewhere, just pull it out, read a chapter.
Man, times have changed. Big time. They used to have Sports Illustrated in the school library, too.
I never thought I'd be talking negatively about a library. It's a place people like. It's a place. I grew up in a library, story time and all that, where the librarian would read stories to the kids and all that. It's a great place to go.
I may have not returned a couple of John Elway cover Sports Illustrateds from the library at Pleasant Valley Middle School, too.
I needed a Time magazine for a report in high school, and somebody wised me up. I said, yeah, I'd like to cut this out. They said, look, just go and tell them you lost it. All they can do is charge you what the magazine cost. That's all they can do to you.
Well, that's genius.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, hey, I'm sorry, I lost it. Okay, you owe us, $2.20 or whatever.
My
That was
bad.
it.
My
Yeah.
bad. All right, when we come back, Chris Burkhardt going to join us in studio, and the first item up for bid will be the Nuggets and Timberwolves. Is Minnesota the only team that can knock Denver off in the West? We'll get to that next on the Rip City Drive. What up? 4 o'clock chat here. We start with the NBA. We got a doubleheader on TNT tonight. Heat and Celtics at 4:30. With the win, Boston will move on to round two. The Celtics are favored by 13.5. At 7 on TNT, Game 5, Mavericks and Clippers in Los Angeles. Series is tied up at 2. Dallas favored by 3.5. No Kawhi Leonard. Luka is dealing with a sore knee, but says he's ready to go for Game 5. The Timberwolves expect head coach Chris Finch to travel to the Mile High City for Game 1, Wolves and Nuggets, after he got his knee cracked on the sideline. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad is coming at you right now. Joining us in studio will be Chris Burkhardt, and we'll talk about the Nuggets and Timberwolves. That's the first item up for bids. Boy, Chris Burkhardt came in throwing some fire today. We had an episode in the office yesterday where someone decided to reply all, and then that started a chain of reply all emails. And I complained about it in studio yesterday. My email box was flooded with a bunch of nonsense. I got to go through and clear all that out.
It's it should be a finable offense at least, not fireable, but I see finable, maybe a suspension of email privileges for 24 hours or something. But
that's a good idea. You've lost your email privileges. I see the reply all very similar to the clown in the staff meetings that likes to raise their hand and ask the question.
Oh, yeah, right when you're getting ready to break up.
Yes. Any questions? And I'm never going to be that guy.
Yeah.
But there's always that one person that can't resist. They want to hear their voice. They want other people to hear their voice. They want to try and sound smart in front of the boss.
It's because they saw themselves in the reflection in the mirror and like, oh, my nose isn't brown enough. I got to ask a question here before the meeting.
That's exactly what it is. And then once someone opens up that can, then other people feel the need to chime in. And the reply all, I see that as the same type of situation.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I know a little bit about this topic. I'm going to ask a question so I can show everybody that I'm a smart guy.
Yeah.
Here's the great part about being a sports guy at a radio network.
That plays music all the time.
Yeah, no one cares what I have to say about any topic under any circumstances, so I just keep my pie hole shut.
Hey, you never know. I walked in, and you're the marquee station in the lobby right now. It's the one on the speaker. So
it is.
That's what I heard. As I walked
It
in.
is usually when I go home. It is too. Yeah, that's because there's nobody in the lobby and. Ever.
Thank goodness. I didn't want anyone to hear, like probably right at the time I said Bo Nix and jerk off, that the boss is walking by.
Yeah, just go ahead and say it again if you want.
Yeah. Sometimes you say things, it's like, well, that's not quite how it meant or what I meant for it to come out. And you're like, oh, well, I just got to ride with it now. It's already out. So what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you, my friend. I have to ask you in once in a while because that way maybe it'll slow down some of the emails and the calls of the Chris Burkhardt complaints that come in. I love it.
They're not complaints. It's like it's cat and mouse. I play with my food a little bit. Like I told you the other day when you called me, you're so predictable. If I text you on a Monday morning, I get a call 5 minutes later.
Oh, speaking of that, this is one of the funniest things I've gotten in quite some time. All of the emails, you can send emails to the station through the website. And they all come into my inbox. And so most of them are nonsense. Most of them are people complaining about me primarily for this, that, or another thing. But every once in a while I get some about Justin. And I love this here. The morning show on 620 is the worst sports talk show in the country. That's a big statement right there.
You're listening to a lot of radio to make that statement.
I enjoy sports talk only if it's about sports. These guys, especially the host, talks like a Kardashian. Justin is like definitely the 541 version of a Kardashian. I laughed my ass off when I read that this morning, and I said it straight over to Justin. I said, dude, this is the best. Someone just referred to you as a Kardashian. Isn't that awesome?
Well, you certainly knew immediately who they were talking about.
Yes. But like that's Justin, because anytime I want to call someone to talk about pop culture or anything that's going on in the news or food or some type of special beverages or someone who's famous, I'm going to call Justin because I know that he's up to speed on every bit of news about everything pop culture-wise that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And he also grew up in the same era that I did. So he and I are vibing on pretty much the same things. So I read that, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like Justin. I love it. I love that.
I picture him like laughing at it with a glass of wine in his hand at the exact same time.
Yes,
Like,
as he's enjoying a beverage. A cocktail hour with he and his wife is
Right.
laughing.
At his outdoor television set. Yes.
Oh, it's so good. All right, let's start with this. Nuggets and Timberwolves kick off this weekend, round 2 of the Western semis. I want to play this clip from Brad Bakken, who joined us. We asked him if Minnesota would have a chance or how they match up. Here's what he had to say. That's Grand Frunk. That's Queen Bee. This is Brad Bakken.
They match up really as good as anyone. I wrote this before the playoffs started. They match up on paper with the Nuggets as good as any team in the league. And here's why. Because they play so big. You know, most teams have to waste their big man or else go super small, like on Nikola Jokic. So, like the Lakers, let's throw Rui Hachimura on it. But it's a total mismatch. But when you've got the bigs that you have in Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert, and Naz Reid, you don't have to utilize Gobert on Jokic. Now Gobert can go and play on a guy like Aaron Gordon, and he can sag off to some degree, and he can be that roaming rim protector. And that's a huge, huge, huge matchup advantage that for 48 minutes, the Timberwolves have the size. And Karl Anthony Towns, he has a bad reputation defensively. He's committed, and if you've watched any of his individual matchups with Jokic this year, he's banging chess with him. And he's at least providing a physical force in front of Jokic. And it allows Rudy Gobert to roam off the ball and be a rim protector. And I'll tell you what, when you got Rudy Gobert roaming around, cleaning up all the mess, and you've got that kind of perimeter pressure with Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards, not Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, and even Mike Conley, when you're putting that kind of pressure on the ball, because you know that you have Rudy Gobert on the backside roaming, it is a massive matchup advantage for them to have a second big that they don't have to waste their main big on Nikola Jokic, and then it just becomes the same old blueprint. If you only have one big, Jokic goes out to the three-point line, he pulls your rim protector away, and you have driving lanes. But that's not the case with Minnesota. He can pull Towns out, he can pull Reed out. Gobert's still back there, and they match up really well because of that.
All right, Burkhardt, you and I have talked about it all year long. Mm-hmm. How would Minnesota and Oklahoma City do come playoff time? We're about to find out with the Timberwolves. What do you think about the size of Minnesota and how they match up with Denver?
Well, this is one thing you and I have talked about prior to this matchup even happening. You asked me who do you think could knock them off, and that was the one team I said. I said about a month and a half ago, I know it sounds weird, but Minnesota, and it is because of that size and what Bakken was saying there too. If you get one of those bigs out, a lot of the times what Denver's been able to do is they get that defender out, and that's how you open up really good lanes for guys like Aaron Gordon, who's just a master at cutting to the rim and playing above it, right? So you have another big down there, and they're going to be able to hit Jokic, maybe get him into foul trouble, who knows, but they're going to make him work, which, you know, he's still going to find ways to do it. But then everywhere around the roster, too, you look at the matchup against the Lakers, right, who one of my personal favorite guys in the league, very underrated, but, you know, who kind of willed the Nuggets to some wins there? It was Jamal Murray, right? But now Minnesota also has some size and a guy who is not as good as he was in Memphis, but a guy in Mike Conley who's still a very good on-ball defender for a point guard. Like, they match up very well against the Nuggets.
How good is their defensive system, Godfather?
Oh, it's real good, Chad. It's real good. The one thing I noticed from looking back on some of those matchups, the problem Minnesota has when they do that, Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most foul-prone guys in the league. He commits a lot of really dumb fouls. But it's the playoffs. Who knows how many of those are going to actually get called in the playoffs? He has some dumb fouls in him. And Jokic is just the guy to draw him if they'll call him. I mean, look, Jokic got fouled all the time against the Lakers. They didn't call one of them. He never went to the line in that last game. Not once. So I don't know. The other thing is that would leave Gobert on Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon could go to the corner on you and make a corner three. So he's probably going to have to go out. Somebody's going to have to go out there on him. And if they do, Aaron Gordon's pretty fast at getting to the dunker spot and catching that little short alley-oop.
Is Aaron Gordon from the corner just a shot that you live with, where it's like you got to prove that you can make that shot on a regular basis before we worry about it?
Yeah, he would have to prove it. Yeah, for sure. They can also go three bigs, though. They can do a lot of things because they got Naz Reid coming off the bench, who's terrific.
He's a big dude.
Oh, man. That's a guy the Sixers should have never let go. I mean, he's a very valuable player. He is tough.
Yeah, you saw it in the back-to-back here in Portland. I mean,
Yeah.
he played real well against the Blazers.
Their depth, too, right? Like, if there's the one weakness that we see, Dwight and I, in Denver's, their bench is non-existent.
Right.
It's all about the starting five. Minnesota's a much deeper team. Fatigue, or if Jamal Murray's not 100%, that could become a big issue for Denver.
Yeah, and as great as Jokic has been too. I mean, Minnesota might have the guy who's playing better than anybody else in the league right now in the playoffs, in Anthony Edwards too. So things it's crazy over there in Minnesota.
Who will they put on Jamal Murray? Is that going to be Conley?
No, I think Edwards. That's what I think.
I need that in my life.
Yeah, because you don't need to waste him on somebody else. Put him on their best offensive player.
Yeah, you move. I mean, Conley, you get over there on a KCP, off on the side instead. Not as versatile offensively.
That's a good idea.
Good shooter, just not as versatile.
So Edwards should be able to eat pretty well in this series then.
Oh, I would think so. See, the one thing too about Denver is they prosper when they're playing at a little bit of pace, especially at altitude. Man, they had to play at that pace all the way through the Lakers series, and I think it wore on them a little bit. I think they did get a little tired. Now, they got plenty of time to rest before this starts, but once this series starts, it's pretty much every other day kind of series, and I think there's a real good chance with the depth that Minnesota has, they can wear them down, and they will. They'll put a lot of pressure on the boards. They'll put a lot of pressure defense on them. I think it's going to be – you're right. This will be the toughest series probably that Denver has.
The one thing that I noticed when Minnesota was in town, they played back-to-back games here. Anthony Simons struggled mightily in those two games because Minnesota's length is so weird. They've got long guys, and you can't get the space you're accustomed to. It could be a series where Jamal Murray's going to have to work his butt off to be able to get to his spots and get the shots he wants. They're not going to come as easy as they did against the Lakers.
Yeah. What's going to happen, too? The team that wins this series is going to go – they're going to go play OKC, I believe. OKC is going to be much fresher, much younger, and take it to them. This is a great opportunity this year. I think OKC has a much easier path. They're going to get either Dallas or the Clippers, who those teams aren't as good as Denver and Minnesota.
That's true. I'm not with you on OKC just breezing through the next round because I think Dallas and the Clippers, with their experience, again, I don't buy into this whole young and they're good. I love Oklahoma City's versatility and stuff, but I have to see them do it before I can just see a team with no playoff experience breeze through to the conference finals.
Get ready to see it, pal.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not with you on that. And the idea that Oklahoma City's not going to the finals. They're not going to get through. Because if they do get past the Clippers or Mavericks, they're not going to beat Minnesota or Denver. Who's going to win the series? Who do you guys like, Denver or Minnesota?
I stay with the champions usually. Somehow Denver figures out a way, but it's going to take a lot out of them.
I still like the Nuggets. I still like Jokic and Murray and what they got going on. It's going to take effort, though.
So you like the Thunder against Denver if they match up in the West Finals?
Oh, I think they have a chance, yeah.
I didn't ask you if they had a chance. I said, you think they're going to beat them?
I want to wait and see what kind of shape each team is in before I say that. It's awfully early to pick the winner of that series.
Okay. Well, I'm not with you on that. I think the Clippers are going to win the series against the Mavs. Well, maybe. I don't know. The Clippers are the Clippers. I don't know. We'll see with the Thunder. They're good. They're really good. But they played a bum team, too. What can we read from the New Orleans series?
Nothing.
Gosh. Thanks for showing up, fellas. Thank you. What was C.J. McCollum doing? No-showed, and then Brandon Ingram was a no-show.
C.J. at least had a pretty good last game. Ingram was just a no-show for the whole series.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt's going to be with us here in studio for the rest of the hour. We'll get his thoughts on a variety of different things, including Bo Nix. Got a chance to squeeze in more Bo Nix talk. We got to do it. I want to get Chris's thoughts on Bo Nix going to Denver as a former Duck himself. We'll talk some draft, get his thoughts on Penix going to Atlanta. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, be sure to tune in. Kardashian will have Rip City Mornings tomorrow morning at 6. That's the best. Justin Myers being called a Kardashian is my new favorite thing. All right, 503-248-0620. Chris Burkhardt's in studio. It's great to see his face. All right, Bo Nix is in Denver. You're a Duck. What's your take on the fit with Sean Payton?
I guess we'll see, right? I mean, I think it's really interesting. I mean, this has got to be kind of it, really, make or break for Sean Payton, right? I mean, he had a good career as a coach, but he also had Drew Brees, who's an all-time great, and everyone hails him as a quarterback guru, and, he's going to be good with Russ, but then as soon as it starts wobbling, it's like, well, Russ just isn't his type of quarterback. He needs to get his type of quarterback, and then he has the 12th pick, and he drafted what is supposed to be his type of quarterback. So if he doesn't hit with Knicks, I mean, that might be the end of him. So there's a lot on the line for Coach here.
Yeah, Chris, Chad said it right. Peyton is kind of laying his whole career there in Denver on the line with Bo Nix.
I agree.
His wagon is hitched to Bo, no question.
I agree. I absolutely agree. You're already getting the debates like, does he start? Do you give it to Zach Wilson or one of the two other guys that we can't remember their names?
Bums in that quarterback room?
You drafted him 12th at this point. You give it to him. Because, again, like you said, he hitched his wagon to him. So I think the person here who has the most to prove and the most to lose is Coach Payton.
Now, in defense of Payton, when he got Drew Brees, no one wanted Drew Brees. Drew Brees was not a great quarterback when Sean Payton went out.
And he was damaged goods, too.
He was coming off the injury to the shoulder.
Right.
And then Sean Payton went out and got him and then developed him into the great quarterback that he was. So I think he deserves credit for that. Unlike John Fox getting Peyton Manning, who was already great. But you're right. This is it because now there's no excuses. You hated Russ. He wasn't your quarterback. You didn't pick your quarterback. Now you got your guy. And we'll see how it works. And the best part is about this, Dwight and I were just talking about this. Like, Bo Nix he's smart. He's accurate. He gets rid of the football quickly. Like, he's the prototypical Sean Payton type quarterback. I want to see what Payton can do with a guy that apparently on paper has all of the tools that he's looking for.
Yeah, and my big thing that kind of blows my mind, too, is that, first off, everyone gets in this big hole like, well, but what about in the NFL when he has to go under center? Like, how much time is spent under center in the NFL? Every single team is running a quarterback in the shotgun.
Everyone I talk to says that transition to go from shotgun all the time to center is tough.
Yeah, and I want to know if they either play quarterback or center or what they're talking about. I think it's crazy because go down the list. The Tom Brady's, the Mahomes, the Justin Herberts right now. They're all, what are they doing? They're lining up in shotgun most of the time. Is it hard to get under center? Yes. And I know I don't look like it because I'm a short guy, but I did play center. So I understand both the short and the long snap here. But I'm just saying that part there, I think he'll be fine. But the other thing that gets me is like, he doesn't have the strong arm. He throws a lot of short passes. That can be the bread and butter of an NFL offense, too. It's not like every single NFL quarterback is just every single snap is just throwing 50-yard bombs. There is a lot of dink and dunk 5-yard routes where you're hitting them and getting out behind your blockers. And if Knicks can do that and Peyton unlocks that within a Peyton offense, then I think you got a good quarterback for it.
What was your overall take on Knicks going into the draft? Did you think he was going to be a good NFL quarterback or did you think he was going to be a meh?
No, I think he's one of those ones where his ceiling might not be as high as some of those other guys, but I think his floor is higher. He reminds me of a little bit of like a Derek Anderson, right? Derek Anderson, good career at Oregon State.
Lasted forever.
Right. And he had a couple years where he was a really good starter. Right, exactly. Yeah. But when the starting time kind of faded on him, he still had a really long career as a backup. Yeah. So did like Kellen Clemens, who came out of Oregon. And I kind of think that's Bo Nix's floor. As where you look at like a Michael Penix or even a guys like J.J. McCarthy, I think their floor is lower because I think it could fall out.
Oh, gosh. I don't want to hear about Bo Nix being a perennial backup for his whole career. That sucks.
No.
That's not what he meant,
I didn't say that. I'm saying his floor is higher than all those guys. So I think in worst case, you're still getting a good quarterback, but I think it's can he achieve that ceiling? No, you're over analyzing what I'm saying here.
Yeah, he's saying like, hey, 10 years as a starter, and then he winds. People are still going to want him even after that.
I think he's weird way of saying it. I think he got a good quarterback. I liked him going in. You asked what I thought about him going into the draft. That's what I thought. Like I think he's a great pick, a good quarterback. 12 was a little bit of a reach, but then you saw how the draft was going out, and you're like, you're going to have to reach to get the guy you want, and they did.
All right. Did you think the Falcons' move to draft Penix was a dumb decision?
Yes. To give a quarterback $100 million in the offseason and then the draft a guy to breathe down his neck. And it's not like you just, and I'm not knocking the guy for being in his mid-20s, just like Bo Nix. But when you draft a guy at that age, you're going to want to get him on the field as quick as possible. So he comes in the door. It's not, everyone uses the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love thing. Yeah, well, Jordan Love is young and you can afford to develop him. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers when he was backing up Brett Favre, right? But when you go draft the guy who's already in some positions, you're in your twilight of your career at that position, right? And he's already old. You want to get him on the floor. He came in the door and is now breathing down the neck of your $100 million quarterback.
Yeah.
And now if something happens to Kirk Cousins, do you have the contingency plan? Yes. But then again, what are your dead cap money hits if you have to get out? You might mess this thing up financially. I don't like that move at all.
Yeah, I think they're probably dumb. That was probably a dumb move by the Falcons.
Jack, here's the thing for me. If they fell in love with Michael Penix, if they fell in love with him, take him at 8. But you knew before you signed.
They didn't know. I heard a discussion on that. That's a good point. And what I heard is that, because free agency is right there at the start of the new league year. Teams are still not even close to going or finishing their process of going through all of their quarterbacks. They haven't met with them individually yet. They haven't gone through all of their grades and their discussions. So they're still in the middle of their draft breakdown because they're still several weeks away from the draft. And so as they went through their process and then went through the interviews and they had a chance to have the private workout, which came far after the free agent period, that's when they fell in love with Penix. So they fell in love with him after the fact. My thought is now, the more time I've thought about it, I think they fell in love with Penix. They said, we have to take that guy. My guess is that they're going to start him much sooner than 2 or 3 years down the road.
Oh, I see Cousins as a one and done there.
That's what I think. I think what they're going to do, I think they fell in love with Penix so much that Cousins has got 1 year. And then most of that contract with the $100 million in guaranteed money is all front loaded. They'll move off after a year. You're not going to sit. They're not sitting Penix for 2 or 3 years. That makes no sense. As Burkhardt pointed out, I think Cousins, like all of us realize, I'm sure Cousins know this, you got 1 year. Go out there, make it happen, then he's out.
Well, and it's also questionable how ready Cousins is going to be for the start of the regular season after the injury.
Yes.
It might take him 4 or 5 games into the year.
And what they can do, they'd still have to probably take a nice little cap hit, a big cap hit for a year. They could trade Cousins and get draft compensation in return. So it could turn out to be a win for them, and then they end up going with Penix. So my guess is Cousins started this year unless there's an injury. After this year, then it's Michael Penix. That's the only thing that makes sense, because this whole idea that they had to say it on draft night, 4 or 5 years down the road. Not at 25.
No.
You're going to start at what? When he's 28, 29? Get the bleep out of here. That's not happening. So I think 1 year for Cousins. They'll trade him. They'll move off him, and then Penix will get the job. I think they just fell in love with him so much that they just thought we can't pass up on a guy like this.
Yeah.
But who knows? They don't appear to be. It would also indicate that maybe they didn't have a plan. That's possible.
They're not exactly known as the smartest organization in football.
No, I mean, they made a kind of a stretch on a pick on their last young quarterback that they drafted too, right? I think that was a head scratcher when they took Ritter out of Cincinnati.
Sucked.
Like what kind of pick was that?
Yeah, we all knew that guy was going to be trash. I just wish I could have been in there with that conversation when they tried to explain what they had just done to Arthur Blank.
One of the great owners, supposedly.
Hey, wait, did I just pay $100 million for Cousins? Why did we draft Penix?
Yeah.
Don't worry, we got this. We got this, boss.
You're kind of getting free with my money, guys. I don't really get this.
Yeah, and wait till Penix gets out there in the field, like in training camp or during the preseason, starts whipping it around the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Cousins. He's a good quarterback. He's no Joe Montana. I mean, Penix is going to blow him away.
Yeah, especially in those OTAs and off-season drills and everything, where he's not having to face contact and you're just going to see that big arm of his.
Oh, the ball's going
Players
to
are
be
gonna
zipping
love
out
it.
of there.
Oh, yeah.
Big ability to throw it way down the field, and the receivers are going to like some of those receivers. I don't know if they've ever played with a guy, if they run like a curl route or something where the ball's going to be in their face because the quick release that Penix has. I mean, full disclosure, Duck fan here, but he was my favorite quarterback in college football last year. Thought he should have been the Heisman. He was so good.
And he was so good in the big games.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was.
Those 2 games against Oregon, it was like, good gracious, what do you do?
Yeah.
He killed it.
Made Heisman throws in every single one of them.
Oh, he's big time. All right, let's talk and shift to television now. We'll get to the Braves in just a moment. We got a situation now where we got another RSN that's having issues with Comcast.
Mm-hmm.
Bally Sports. Braves fans are going to be very bitter here in the near future. We're seeing this shift now in the NBA. Utah's done it. Phoenix has done it. And now the Blazers are faced with a situation where you've got 1 more year left on the deal with Root. Root's having some issues, so we're going to see what's going to happen in the near future. What do you think about the Blazers potentially at some point following the pathway of Utah and Phoenix of going over the air to where everyone has access and then combining that with the stream option?
Well, I think it'd be smart, right? I think that this is a plan that they've probably wanted to do for a while, and no one wants to be the first, right? To go out there and be the first one to be the team that we're gonna have the streaming option, and we're gonna have this, we're gonna let someone else do that and maybe fail. But you hear what's happened in Phoenix. You see how the Utah packages work. Fans love it, and they have great access, and that's what the Blazers want. So I think that's the future, and I think that's definitely the way they want to go. I think it helps them. People, not a lot of people know this, but the Blazers are a rare team in the fact that all their production is done in-house, right? Like when you watch a Blazer game, that's a Blazer employee, like Calabro. Those guys are Blazer employees, as where when you're watching a lot of the other ones on a Bally Sports or even like a Root Sports, like those are Root employees doing the Mariner game, not Mariner employees. And that benefits the Blazers to have that capacity in-house. Now you have some other teams who have done their experimenting. You see that it works, and it's just a matter of can you get out of it and get that out there and generate some buzz.
Chris, you think their attendance will hold up okay, particularly in a year coming up, if they happen to do it this year where they're probably going to be tanking? Let's face it. We kind of all see that draft coming up next year,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets real easy to stay at home and watch the games for free on TV.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, again, if you put eyeballs on it, people are going to watch it. You're going to have kids out there who win, lose, or draw. They're going to get hooked, right? And that matters to some capacity. Now, it's not a big money-making venture, but it is a step in the right direction. And I know as a fan, I've argued this for a long time. And I don't think there's any excuse for a local market to not have 100% access to the teams that play within their market. I don't like the current setup and how it is in any sports. I hate blackout dates and restrictions in different sports. I just think it's dumb. I don't think it helps grow the sport because too many people have got too worried about the monetary side of it. And the fan, I think, needs to come first. And I think you're starting to see that shift with some of these teams.
What's going on with the Braves?
Well, all of a sudden, I don't know how much warning anybody have. Certainly, I think Bally Sports had some warning. They've been negotiating with Comcast on their carriage agreement. And but fans, of course, you never know that stuff's going on behind the scenes. They had no idea. But all of a sudden, yesterday, the Braves are no longer on Comcast Cable in Atlanta. Ironically, Comcast Cable has the huge building in center field at Truist Park with a big sign building, there. Yeah, Chris has seen it. And it's like they're no longer on that station because they can't come to an agreement. And they're blacked out on a lot of local packages. Even the MLB package, they're blacked out on it. It's a big mess. And, of course, Rob Manfred, the genius commissioner of Major League Baseball right now, won't do anything with the blackout policy. No, it's not something we can do right now. Well, you can do anything you want. You're the commissioner. But anyway, it's – and the Braves, both you guys know, the Braves are extremely popular in Atlanta right now with the kind of team they've had. They've won how many NL East titles in a row now? 5 or 6, something like that. It's a killer. And it's also, they have the contract for the Nashville Predators, and their games aren't being shown because they can't make an agreement with those guys either. And it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Well,
and this is a sign of things to come. It's a house of cards. It's all falling.
You mentioned Rob Manfred. We got to play it. just because it's a lot of fun.
Oh, God.
I love this. There's nothing better than someone sitting right next to Rob Manfred at a game explaining to him why he sucks and what he needs to do.
Hey, Rob, if you want the youth and the blackouts, dumbass.
If you want the youth and the blackouts.
Yeah, I love it. That's good stuff. Yeah, don't you think in regards to the Trailblazers, like if they made an announcement in the near future that their games are going to be over the air and everyone would have access, like that would be a PR win for them.
Oh, big time. The fans I've talked to have been clamoring for it for a long time. A long time.
Well, fans are going to love it.
Yeah.
What would some of the fans complain about when they make the announcement?
I don't know.
I don't have a digital receiver.
Yeah. My antenna doesn't get that channel through very well.
Yeah.
Yep.
No matter what you do, people are still going to complain about something.
And it's, I've always said this, and Chad, no, we kind of grew up in the same era where you had to pay for the games. You know, it was like Blazer Cable and all that stuff was going on. When I grew up, 20 games on TV, always home games, never road games. What makes you think you're entitled to watch any of these games when they're charging people to go see them? They're charging big bucks to go see this team in person, but you think you're entitled to watch every game for free. What gives you that right?
I didn't grow up in that world, man. Dwight's right. I grew up in a world where if I wanted to see the Blazers play the Lakers at home, I had
beg
to
your old man, right?
Dad, please, can we have $14.95? No, that's outrageous for a basketball game. That's the way it was. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, DirecTV has NFL Ticket? Like all these things that came into the world when I was younger, it blew my mind.
Well, even the beginning, I think, with the Superstation, WTBS, you got the Braves games, but you also got the Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
Chip Carey doing play-by-play for both, actually.
Well, Chris and I have talked about this. That look at what happened. Like I watched every Bulls game on WGN.
Yeah.
I watched the Braves. I became Braves and Bulls fans or MJ fans because I had access to the games.
Yeah. So many did.
Yeah, that and being a baseball guy, Braves and Cubs growing up.
Dale Murphy calls them TBS kids.
Yeah.
That's what they were.
I just loved it because I could get home from school in the middle of the afternoon and have a baseball game to watch at 3 o'clock.
Right after Andy Griffin. Can't lose.
Yeah, right after Andy. I loved watching Andy.
And the great part was I suffered through some really bad years with the Braves in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, late 80s, early 90s, they became great. And so I got to be a part of that ride.
Yeah.
I knew all those guys because I watched all the games for free.
Yeah.
I can't believe we got to see MJ for free on WGN.
Yeah, all the time.
Braves talk just makes me want cheese.
That was a great Jim Durham did those games a lot.
Oh, Jim Durham's awesome.
Oh, he's terrific.
Love Durham, but my favorites are just like you. My favorite announcer, I mean, if I had to pick one, it's Carey. Skip Carey. Is that who it is? Skip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how the pro, and then Pete Van Wuren.
Yeah.
He was great.
The
all
professor,
those guys,
Pete Van Wuren. Yeah.
Those guys were awesome. Carey and Van Wuren were the best. They were great at baseball and basketball. No matter what they did, Carey was great on football too.
Yeah.
It's too good. Too good to be true. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. Chris Burkhardt is in here. Dwight Janes.
Chad Doing.
Yeah, Chad Doing. Kardashian will be on tomorrow morning, so I'm sorry that Justin could not join us. When we come back, Mick Jagger touring at 80.
Gee.
You think is he still having sex at 80?
Explain that. Wow. Why else would he tour?
It's amazing what you can do at 80. Is 80 the new 50?
I hope so.
All right, we'll come back. We got to talk about Mick Jagger. Stones. All right, after a 3-year North American absence, the Rolling Stones are getting ready to kick off a 16-city tour, and Mick Jagger is 80 years old and still going strong. He's like some sort of a freak of nature.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, he still sounds pretty good, too. I listened to part of that first concert in Houston, and he sounded okay.
Is he miming?
That's a great question. I don't know if anybody – nobody does that anymore, Chad, I don't think.
That's true. No,
Yeah.
Why would someone mime?
I don't think that happens.
But 80 years old. I can't imagine. Like, my dad is not even 80, and I can't imagine him getting up on stage and shaking his booty in front of a big crowd. That's wild to me.
Yeah, but I can't imagine your dad doing that at the age of 35.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah.
No, he would be the one in the back of the room saying, I don't need to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
He's quite okay just blending in, being a wallflower. I don't need anyone to notice me. But 80 years old.
I did a column once at the Argonian. I swear to God, this is true. The Bulls played here one night, and the Stones played here the next night. So I had two MJs in 2 nights, and I wrote a column about the two MJs and how much energy they had and how amazing it was to see them both do their thing back to back. Because that's when Jagger on stage at that time, God, he's running all over doing that chicken dance of his and, just crazy stuff. He was like, and he was, in his 70s then or late 60s. It was incredible.
Well, I just give him credit. Keep living.
Yeah.
If you want to do it and you got the health to do
Right.
it, why not go out there and do what you love doing?
That's probably what's keeping him healthy.
Yeah, because once you shut it down
Yeah.
and you don't go back, like, if you still enjoy it and you can still do it and you got the health to do it, then why not?
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Hey, you're a fitness guy. It's like, say you take a week off the gym. What's it like when you get back in? Your
Brutal.
body's like, oh gosh, what happened? So same thing.
Brutal.
The minute you start slowing down, especially at that age, you're not getting it to rev back up.
The Stones, like, they're one of the greatest bands of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not one of my favorites. I like a lot of their music, but I don't seek them out.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, it was the Stones and the Beatles almost in a natural rivalry for years because they were the two biggest bands in the world at one time.
From England, yeah.
They're legendary.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Are you a big Stones fan?
I'm kind of like you, Chad. I like a lot of their music. If they were coming to town again, I'd try to see them. But no, I there's 2 or 3 other bands that would rank ahead of them on my chart.
You down with the Stones?
I'm with both of you. They're nowhere near my top, but I have nothing bad to say about them.
Well, they're iconic, right?
Yes, every song they have is good. I have love a lot of their music. They're just not one of my favorites.
It just amazes me they're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is Keith Richards still alive?
Oh, that guy especially. He has tortured himself his whole life.
It must be genetics. Like, you're born with certain
Yeah.
genetics that are going to just give you a long life. Because some of those guys, these rock stars who are still jamming, I mean, they've been through the ringer, man.
Yeah.
The crazy lifestyle. You go through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now you're in 2024, and you survive all the different ebbs and flows. He's got a son that was dancing around at a concert who's 7 years old. His dad's 80.
So, wait a second now. He had a child?
73.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
That's impossible.
Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I just assumed when you reach a certain age, there were just certain things you don't do anymore. I can't imagine having a child at age 73. That's just wild to me.
Well, I mean, you can do it, but I don't even know how to describe it. Usually nothing happens, I mean, I don't know how you get somebody pregnant.
No,
at
but
that
I
age.
didn't know I didn't know people in their 70s still did it. Like, I just,
Really?
yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, I'm being serious right now. This is not meant to be a joke, and I'm not even being juvenile. Like, how old, is there an age where people stop doing that?
Yeah, I think you probably lose interest at some point or something. I don't know. Or you can't do it. Sometimes you can't. I mean,
Is 80 the cutoff line?
there isn't a cutoff line.
So it just depends on the individual.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Your libido and your health and all those things play into it. If you've had a debilitating thing like prostate cancer or something
Yeah.
like that, it can sometimes affect your ability. But, yeah, I just – it's usually, though, that you can't get somebody pregnant that late in
Because
life.
you wouldn't be potent enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
That's
gracious.
a good way. I was looking for a way to say that.
Potent,
But
yeah. Yeah, I understand.
Better than saying shooting blanks.
But it's just funny to me because when I talk to the old guys,
Sorry, Chris.
when I talk to the old guys at the coffee shop, they all sit in the corner table.
Yeah.
I mean, just based on what they're looking at and some of the smiles they give, like they're still scandalous. And these guys are old. They're old. And I'm just like, whoa.
You dirty dogs.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, you guys are still naughty.
You still have things to look forward to in your life, Chad.
This is amazing to me. I had no idea. I honestly had no idea. Like, even when my Nana remarried at whatever age she was at, I had no idea until I heard some things over the phone. I was like, oh, what? Nana still does that? You still do that at that age? I had no idea. I don't know. You just assume when you're younger, like when people get to a certain age, that certain things just come to an end. But for Mick Jagger, it's like he's still having kids and jamming out at 80. Why not? Why stop now? Why not have another child?
I think it's more amazing he can get around and sing and dance at 80 than it is the other part of it.
Which is more amazing, him dancing and singing at 80 or having a child at 73? They're both pretty amazing.
Yeah, tough call.
You guys have never
I don't
had
know.
that thought? You never thought, like, am I going to reach an age where I don't care about that anymore?
No, I don't. I don't think about that.
Shacker, do you have a cutoff line? Have you set a cutoff line for when you don't want that anymore?
When I die.
He's honest. Shacker's honest.
Spoken like a true guy.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. Good for Mick.
Yeah.
Good for Mick.
He's an inspiration.
Like, what are the groupies like? Do you think he has? I'm just curious now. Do you have younger groupies or do like
I
old?
bet he does. I bet he does. Yes. He's still a star. If
Yeah.
you're a star.
That's true.
I, mean,
I have read that some of the senior living communities, like in Florida and stuff, that like, well, there's a lot of hanky-panky going on down there at those places.
Some of them have been plagued by venereal diseases.
That's what I
I've-
read.
See, I thought that's where you were going
Yeah.
with it. I've heard that too.
It's just hard to imagine, like, because my Nana was my Nana. Like, I can't imagine Nanas being scandalous like that. That's awesome. It's amazing to me.
This is what I came in for.
Can you imagine being in a retirement home and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go out and drop the hammer tonight and just go around just trying to see who you can.
Knocking on doors.
Yeah. Door-to-door activity. Hey, what are you doing tonight? Yeah, I just thought maybe you could come on over. We could have a little fun. Like, that's just wild to me.
Hello.
Come on, we can play bridge.
Yeah.
You know? Whatever games they play.
Clue.
It was Colonel Jagger. Or was it Colonel Mustard? Is that his name?
Colonel Mustard.
Yeah.
In the library with a knife. Yeah.
That's amazing to me. Hey, Dad, why are you so old? I don't know. 80 years old, and your son's 7. That's wild to me. All right. 16-city tour, too. That's a lot. That's
Yeah.
getting after Godfather.
Well, I bet they add cities to it, too. There was some talk they might end up here at some point.
All right. Burkhardt, thanks, buddy.
Of course. Of course.
God, that was a quick hour. Nice going, Chris.
What if your
Thanks.
wife wanted to have a child when you were 73? You'd be like, no, we're not doing that?
Yeah, no child, but the act that, you
Now,
know.
wait a second. Hey, how about if you knew it was going to be a boy?
No, I'm not into that. I don't
Okay.
care. I'm a
You don't
girl
care.
dad. That's
All
all
right.
good. But
All right.
Does she want another child? Or are you done?
I think we're done. She might want another one, but
Uh-oh. They're not done.
Whatever she wants.
we,
All right.
we shall see.
We'll come back. We got to talk Knicks and Sixers. Big thanks to Chris Burkhardt. All right, it's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. What's going on, my friends? Taking a look at the NBA scoreboard. We got 2 games tonight, TNT doubleheader. Right now, the Celtics on top of the Heat, 32-16 with 2:17 to play in the first. If Boston wins the game, they'll take the series in 5 and move on to round number 2. Coming up at 7 o'clock, we got a good one in Los Angeles. Mavericks and Clippers. That series is tied up at 2. Dallas favored by 3.5. The Clippers are without Kawhi Leonard. Luka Doncic has a sore knee, but says he's ready to go for Game 5 coming up tonight. On the diamond, a couple of scores I wanted to throw your way. Up in Seattle, the Braves topped the Mariners by a final of 5-2. The Mariners take 2 of 3 in the set. Other scores, Tigers over the Cards 4-1, and the Brewers down the Rays 7-1. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now.
It's time for the big story of the day on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
Deflected by Hart, saved by Philly. To Embiid, leaner, good from the free throw line and draws a foul. Let the city of brotherly love know there will be NBA basketball in Philadelphia on Thursday night. Game 6, round 1 between the Sixers and the Knicks.
The big story of the day is powered by Powered Kia. The largest selection of Kias in Oregon is at poweredkia.com.
All right, Miranda has chimed in.
Uh-oh.
And it's nothing good, I can tell you that much. Or at least part 2 is not good. Part 1 is, though. Dear Skunk Vomit, good afternoon, Mr. Doing. Sounds like this joke is still relevant. Question, what happens after 4 years of smoking dope? Answer, you get a degree from Portland State University. Oh, she adds in, I think you can substitute Reed College in the punchline. We were talking about the morons who have taken over the library on the campus of Portland State. And that's the one place that you can take over anywhere in the country. Now, no one's going to give a rip because no one goes to the library anymore. No one.
Yeah, that's my thought.
That's my new question. Now I'm going to ask everyone. When was the last time you were at a library? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the internet has sort of taken over for libraries.
And Miranda, just so you know, I'm not going to read anything that has reference to my Nana and Bone Town in the same sentence. It's not happening.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Wait a minute, Miranda wrote that?
Yeah, I'm reading it.
God.
And I can't read it. I'm not doing it.
No, don't
because
do
I
it.
don't. There's certain images in life, Miranda, and I'm sure everyone can agree on this. There's just certain people in your life that you don't want to imagine doing certain activities. My Nana is the Holy Grail. She's like my sweet Nana.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I told you, like, it blew me away. But before my Nana passed, I went back a year before she died on her 90th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an awesome experience because I went back. I knew, she didn't know, but I did, that at the end of the week, there was a big surprise birthday party for her for 90.
Yeah.
And I went in the week before because I wanted to spend time with her. So I took a week of vacation and I went into Tulsa and I just stayed with her for the week. And I knew what was coming up at the end of the week. It turned out to be like a family reunion. It was awesome. Well, what I did at night, Godfather, is we would sit at the table in her living room and we would have a cup of coffee. She would make me instant coffee that was not good, but I didn't care. It was Nana making it for me. And she's like, see, that's just as good as that other stuff you get at the coffee shop. I'm like, yeah, it's delicious. It's terrible, but I drank it anyways. But we would talk for a couple of hours. So I would take my phone and I turned the voice recorder on and I slid it into the middle of the table. And she had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't lead her. I didn't set her up. I wanted just her to talk so I could have different conversations.
Yeah.
And I would ask her questions, things that I knew about or didn't know about because I wanted a record of it. And so I did that the whole week. And so now I've got hours of Nana talking with me at her table about different things. Some things I knew, some things I didn't, but it was pretty fascinating. But one thing I didn't know, and it's just funny to think of your Nana like this, but we were talking about when they got married. And my papa, like a couple of weeks after they got married, he was shipped off to World War II. And she talked about how scary that was because they had just gotten married and he's gone and you don't know if he's going to come back or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't imagine what that was like. And she talked about, the time and what that was like in the country, the fear around the world, the unknown. And then she talked about how in the small town of Pocket City, Oklahoma, how all the women took over, the town. Like my Uncle Howard or my Uncle Roy had a donut shop. So all the ladies took over the donut shop and ran that and kept the business going. And I mean, about the shipyards and everything else. Like there was all sorts of stuff going on. Well, Papa was gone for a few years. And I asked her about that time, and she said she got really lonely. And she told me about a time where she had met a guy when Papa was still over in the war, and she said that he was very nice and polite and a very handsome man. And he asked her if he would go out to dinner with her, and she said no, but she told me that she felt guilty and regrets it even to that day when she was 90, because she said that even though I said no, she goes, I really wanted to go and have dinner with him. And she felt like in her heart she had turned her back on Papa. But she was lonely because she was newly married, Papa was gone, and she didn't know when she was going to see him again, and the need for companionship. She didn't meet with him, but she said she wanted to, and she felt guilty about that. It was just interesting to hear, to think of your Nana like just being like a regular person that deals with the situations that most of us deal with.
Yeah.
Because, you always look at certain people in a certain light,
Well, yeah, this was at a much younger state of her life.
Yeah. And then I also like it, too, because she said when she first met Papa when they were younger, she admitted to me she was in love with two men at the same time.
Wow.
Papa and another guy. And my Papa, I guess, was he had no problems, throwing a little fisticuffs to get what he needed to get done. And so, Nana told him about this other guy, and Papa was like, well, that's not going to work for me. So he went and found the guy, and they got into a fight, and Papa threw some punches. And then Nana said that she knew because Papa was the one that was willing to fight for her that was the one. Isn't that amazing?
That's kind of an old-fashioned way to settle it, isn't it?
Yeah, like nowadays cops would be called a lot of nonsense, but back then it's like, hey, you're in love with the same lady that I love, and I'm going to kick your ass. And basically, winner takes all.
Yeah, and her side of it wouldn't be looked upon as the best way to decide which man you were going to marry.
Yeah, I don't think her parents were particularly happy about that process, but in her mind, it's like he was willing to do whatever it took to be with me. And so I was just like, wow, you were in love with two men at the same time. That's so scandalous for you, Nana. But there you go. You learn stories like that. But I've got all that stuff on tape now. And I turned them into MP3s, and I saved them in several spots so that way I always have them. And it's neat, like because I like hearing her voice because she has the Oklahoma twang,
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And that way, somewhere down the line, maybe if it's at a family reunion, or if I wanted to share with, my kids who both knew her, but obviously not well because they were younger,
Sure.
I can pull out those tapes and be able to play it for them. And there you go. That's the story on Nana being scandalous. I had no idea. So, but it's pretty cool. Yeah. How would you like that, though? It's like, oh, yeah, who's this guy that loves you? I'm going to go fight him. But that's what my dad said, too. He goes, when guys had issues, like in high school, there was a designated spot off school grounds where guys would go and duke it out.
Yeah. It used to be a lot more of
that?
that. Not necessarily, but yeah, I had a few fights, and that's kind of what you did in those days. In fact, the first one I had, Chad, I think I was in 7th grade, and the guy was giving me a bad time. He was an 8th grader.
Yeah.
He was bullying me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. I didn't really want to fight him. I didn't think that would be the right thing to do. So I came home. And the guy practically followed me home all the way to the end of the block. And I came home. My dad said, what's going on? I said, well, this guy's, I won't mention his name, was giving me a bad time. And my dad said, well, this is my dad. You think you could take him? I swear, that's what he said. You think you could take him? I said, I don't know, I guess. And, I was an athlete and stuff. I was fairly strong. And he said, all right, we're going back. I said, really? My dad took me back. He didn't have anything to do with it. But he said, I think it's time that you settled this. So we did. And what I did was I got the guy down, I pinned him, and I was on top of him. I didn't have the nerve while I was sitting on top of him to
whack him,
to hit him. And that was just it. I just stood on top of him like that, and the guy was wiggling around, and finally he stopped wiggling around. My dad said, All right, that's good enough. Let's go. So I got up off the guy and we left.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the guy didn't like it. A couple days later, he sent one of his goons after me. This big, giant kid came after me, and he didn't KO me, but he knocked me down.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a fighter. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's when my dad, the next day, said, you ever thought about taking judo?
Yeah.
And I did tournament judo for like 3 years. My brother and I both.
Oh, good for self-defense.
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah, but that was the day, and like my dad said, he goes, back then, no one was bringing a knife or a gun to the fight. It was well known. It's like, no, this is man on man.
That's what you did, yeah.
We're going to settle things with our dukes, and then we move on. And that's how it went down.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
To think that was the thing back then. And your dad knew, he's like, the best way to settle this, you're going to have to face him.
I would have never done that with my own son.
Yeah.
I could tell you that.
Well, Isaac, the best thing to do is we need to go back so you can fight this guy. Can't
Isaac, do you think you can take him?
Isn't that crazy? But that's the way it was back then. Times have changed, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays you wouldn't do that. Like, even when I'm on the road, like I don't, you got to be careful what you say to someone because they might pull out a gun and shoot you. You know, it's a different world.
Yeah.
All right. That was a great discussion about the Knicks. I enjoyed that. I still don't understand. You need to do a deep dive with all the coaches you know. Why don't you foul before the three-point shot is put up?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to let Tyrese Maxey, who's on absolute fire, just bomb away and tie the game?
Well, it could be a holdover to the old school guys when you would let – I remember days when they would let guys shoot three because it was a low percentage shot.
Yeah.
And it might be a holdover to that, but they got to adjust to the fact that these guys now, they make them all the time. It's not that big a deal to make a three anymore.
No, a three-point shot is like a free throw for those guys.
Yeah, for some of these guys, it's piece of cake.
It's got to feel good. I've always wondered what that's like to beat Tyrese Maxey. Like, that basket had to look a mile wide.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't wait to shoot. Like, he knew it was going in. He had no hesitation on that half quarter.
Well, the game has changed. Did you listen to that one clip I sent you of
I did.
Jack Ramsey
Yes.
talking about how they were going to handle Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
It was great. He's like, basically like, knock him down. I don't give an F.
Yeah. Knock him down. Let's see if he can make those shots after we knock him down.
But that's the way the game was played. It was like that in the 80s and the early 90s. The whole idea was like, look, we know we can't stop him, but we can foul the crap out of him and make him go to the foul line.
Yeah. He was talking to Jim Paxson, too, and Pax said, yeah, we could just take him into the standard. Who cares?
Yeah. And the best part is like basketball fans love that. That's the way the game was played. There are people after that video was put out today on Twitter that said that Pax should have his jersey retired just on the basis of that discussion with Dr. Jack.
Yeah. Pax was great. Great guy to cover, still a good man.
He was awesome. It was cool. He played in Boston with Bird. I thought that was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Portland traded him for Jerry Seasting.
Jerry Seasting was cool.
He was.
He was a very good shooter. Jerry Seasting, most people don't know who he is, but he was one of those guys where I studied him because I thought his jump shot was beautiful, and I loved his form on his jumper. So I tried to mimic Jerry Seasting on the playground.
He has spent many years as an assistant coach in the NBA now. He's a longtime assistant.
He was one of those guys. Bird's even mentioned him. He was one of those guys like in the '86 team, big shooter. Like, a lot of, because some guys back then, Bird, Parrish, and McHale are going to get the attention, right? So you've got to have these other guys who can step up, like Scott Webben or whoever, to knock down shots, right? And those teams back then usually had like one dead eye or so who could knock down shots.
He was not a big guy either. He was fairly small.
Yeah, he was tiny.
Yeah.
Michael Cooper got a lot of three-point looks because Magic and Kareem would be down in the block. Double team would come, and he was able to hit some big threes for him.
Remember the big play in Boston where Johnny Mostis calling it the inbounds pass, Bird stole the ball, fed DJ for the game-winning layup. If you watch that again, Jerry Seasting is the guy guarding the guy on the inbounds.
Yep.
He's jumping around like crazy. He was jumping, trying to guard the inbounds pass, but then when he saw what was happening, he just kept on jumping for joy. It was amazing.
It was cool. And Seasting's also the guy that tried to track the ball down before it went out of bounds when Detroit got possession.
Yeah.
That's one of those moments where you probably should call timeout. I can't believe the Pistons did not call timeout, but I think Isaiah was so excited to get the ball in bounds and knowing that they were going to win a Game 5 at the Garden, and then Bird was right there. That play is remarkable on several levels because Bird kept his heels up, didn't step out of bounds, and then Dennis Johnson had the wherewithal to cut to the basket. There was only a few seconds on the clock. If Johnson doesn't cut,
oh yeah, they wouldn't have been able to
then
score.
Bird can't score from where he's at because he had a guy right on him.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then Bird steals the ball.
Yeah.
Most was great. Did you ever meet him?
Who?
Johnny Most?
Yeah.
Is he cool?
Chad.
Tell him. You can give me a Most story when we come back.
I will.
Okay, good. We got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Shacker sent me this link here from Awful Announcing, and it's referencing an interview that Chris Mannix, who does a terrific job from Sports Illustrated, released ahead of Game 5 that's in Boston tonight with the Miami Heat. And he was talking with longtime Celtics announcer Mike Gorman, who's terrific. And I've been listening to Gorman for most of my life because he was doing TV for the Celtics when Bird was playing. And he says in the interview, Gorman recalled his anger when the league sold its soul to ESPN and other cable networks, robbing fans of the local connection later in the playoffs. Quote, I've never really gotten over that, and I'll never forgive the NBA for that. And I understand owners won't need the money, I guess. But to do 82 games and then maybe do 3 or 4 in the first round and then see you later. Let the network pick up the game. That's fine. But I think the local broadcasters should at least be allowed to work. It's a very sophisticated world we live in, and they can provide a feed of me and the late color analyst Tommy Heinsohn, for instance, that just went out there. If you didn't like it, you could then take Mike Breen or whoever else he's working with that particular week.
Yeah.
It is. He's right.
I agree with it. Yeah. You should get the local guys. You've had them all year. Why not allow them to call the most important games of the year?
Yeah. Instead, we have Stan Van Gundy jammed down our throat.
Torture.
That's the one benefit of Turner losing the NBA rights to NBC.
Yeah.
Is they get Stan Van Gundy out of there. I want inside the NBA. I need Stan Van Gundy out of my life. I can't deal with it anymore, Godfather.
Yeah.
A full season at this point, I've reached my limit on Stan Van. It's
I
terrible.
understand. Yeah.
The diarrhea of the pie hole. It's like, can you just shut your mouth? All right, let's talk about more important things. One, Red Auerbach, the longtime owner, coach, Mr. Everything to the Boston Celtics.
President, GM at one point, yeah. Everything.
Larry Bird loved him. Red Auerbach was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The Victory Cigar.
Mm-hmm.
I am too young to have known Red as the coach, but he used to light up the cigar on the bench when he knew his team was going to win.
Chad, that's why they called it the Victory Cigar. People nowadays cannot even identify with it. They can't believe this when I tell them. But yes, on the bench. Now, everybody knows Red was a cigar smoker, as a lot of people were in those days. And you could smoke in arenas for a lot of his time. So it wasn't that bad. He would sit on the bench with that cigar in his suit coat pocket. And when he thought the Celtics had an insurmountable lead,
yeah,
he would light it up right there on the bench. You knew you were cooked when Red lit that cigar. And they used to say that the broadcasters would say, well, this one's over. Red's lit the cigar. And they'd show it. There's Red with a Victory Cigar. And he's smoking the cigar on the bench. As far as I know, I believe there might have been one game, maybe one game. I never saw it. Somebody told me once there was one game when he lit it too soon and they blew the game. But that's what he did. That's what he was famous for, the Victory Cigar. And he would sit there on the bench smoking that cigar.
Can you imagine Mike Malone?
I could see him doing it, if anybody.
Like that guy right there, like Red Auerbach, like the fact that you have the balls to light up a cigar before the game's over on the bench inside of an arena.
Yeah.
That's a guy that could impregnate someone at 73. That's Mick Jagger potency right there.
But that's the arrogance that the Celtics had in those days. That's how you win, 11 out of 12 years.
Yeah, when you win a championship for a decade straight, you can light up as many cigars as you want.
They're just stomping everybody.
That's amazing. Because I remember him as the owner who would sit up not too far from the court in the stands, and I would remember there were times where he would light up a cigar in the stands.
I remember those days where they'd show that wide shot of the arena from up above, and you see that smoky haze above the court. I remember it more in Madison Square Garden than in Boston Garden, but people smoking their cigarettes during the game. I mean, you smoked everywhere in those days. You smoked in restaurants.
It's hard to imagine, but I did grow up in that era. Yeah. I remember the first couple of plane rides I went on, there were people smoking in the back of the plane.
Yeah, smoky section.
I
remember before there was a smoking section, they smoked everywhere.
Like there were people who would light up smokes on an airplane.
Yeah.
It seems like nowadays, if you grew up in an era where there's no smoking anywhere in public, you think it's crazy, but I did. I remember people smoking on an airplane. They had the little ashtrays right there. It's insanity to think that that went down, but it went down. I remember going to like a Denny's, and the smoking section and the regular section were separated by one little piece of glass. Like
Yeah.
somehow that's going to prevent the smoke from filling up my lungs.
Yeah, well, I remember when there was there wasn't a no smoking section, and you smoked everywhere. And I can remember my mom and dad using their dinner plate as their ashtray.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
You used to be able to
how
smoke
disgusting is that?
at McDonald's. They would have areas at McDonald's where you could smoke, and people were smoking out there while their kids were playing in the playground. They're jumping on Grimace and having a smoke. It's just wild how quickly things change. But now smoking is one of those things where it's almost
Yeah.
it's like taboo.
It pretty much is. And you see it more with young people who probably don't know any better. You still see
Yeah.
some youngsters smoking.
But now you can walk down the street burning your tree, like,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
but if you're smoking a cigarette, people are like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that.
That's not good for you.
Yeah, you're vaping your tree, but then someone's smoking a cigarette. It's like, what are you doing, man? That's disgusting. Isn't that crazy how things have changed
Yeah.
in a very short period of time? Red Auerbach with the Victory cigar. That's a big time move right there.
But Johnny Most, till the end of his broadcasting career, as far as I know, was smoking at courtside while he was doing the games.
Did George Burns ever smoke one of the cigars he had in his mouth?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, in fact, when he was on Johnny Carson a few times,
Yeah.
you'd see him. Because they both smoke. I mean, Johnny would smoke right there, smoke a cigarette right there on the
Who's the
during
guy
show.
from the Honeymooners?
Jackie Gleason?
Yeah, he would smoke cigarettes on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of old Carson shows. I love
Oh, man, they're so good.
Carson is like he's the gold standard.
There's nobody like him.
I watch him, and I love going back and watching them. And I've got certain guests that he has on regularly that I love the most. But Carson was a master, like huge star, huge money, but he had a way of communicating into a camera to make it feel like he was just talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And
His
the way he would
monologues
describe, monologues are the best.
Classic.
He was good. And then the other thing I like about him too, and this is, of course, this doesn't happen now because people just can't do this with art, but Carson would do a great job when it came to political jokes. He would crack on everyone.
Yeah.
You never knew where he leaned politically.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
like that.
He was equal opportunity. He made fun of both parties.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best. He's the master. And I like going back and watching guys like Eddie Murphy or Seinfeld, like the first time they were on.
Yeah.
Because that was the big deal for the comedians. They knew if they went out
Oh, yeah.
the next 6 minutes, if you crush it, you're set. You got a
Rodney
career.
Dangerfield. Man, he had some good ones.
Well,
And look up Bob Uecker. Holy cow, he had some great appearances on Johnny.
Bob Uecker is one of my favorites. My two favorites are Uecker. My three favorites are Rodney Dangerfield, Uecker, and Michael Landon. Because Landon and I love Landon as the actor. I thought he was awesome, but he and Carson were close. That made for good interviews. Uecker's unbelievable. Uecker's one of my favorite announcers of all time. I'm in love with him. And with Carson, absolutely terrific. And Carson fell in love with Uecker. But my favorite thing about Dangerfield is that he's one of the guys that he was so funny. He would get Carson laughing so hard.
Break him up. Yeah.
It'd kill him. And the other guy, too, you should just pull it up. He was on multiple times. But
Comedian?
he's a comedian, actor, like legendary comedian from San Francisco. He killed himself. Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, yeah.
Him on Carson's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't.
Because he's kind of crazy.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
Legit crazy. And he would get Carson and McMahon laughing so hard that the show, it was just total chaos.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
There were
You know what you're going to do now? You've just got me hooked. I'm going to get stuck on Carson videos tonight.
Well, there's people that no one today even knows. Do you remember that comedian, George Gobel? He was hilarious.
I don't remember George Gold.
Oh,
no.
my gosh.
Don
classic.
Rickles, unbelievable, too.
Yeah, well, Rickles was he took Johnny on. He really beat him up. Yeah, it was great.
Rickles is pretty good.
Yeah, but I keep remembering Dangerfield. That's the first time I saw Dangerfield on there, and he was so funny.
Dude, Dangerfield's crazy. So good. And it just keeps coming, man. He just is just one line after another line after. He just kills. And Carson would just be laughing his ass off. I just love that. I love seeing a guy as composed as Carson just completely destroyed because one guy's killing him so much.
Well, and Euchre used to do that too. I think Euchre was on there were only 2 or 3 people on more often than Euchre was. He was on 32 times. It was amazing how often they had him on. And Johnny wasn't a baseball fan or anything. He just thought he was funny.
Yeah, and he was.
He was.
And I was big on the TV show Mr. Belvedere.
Uh-huh.
Great show. Great show. And Euchre was great on that show. To me, that's versatility. The guy's a baseball announcer. He's a comedian. He does some acting. Euchre can do it all. And then I got stuck. There was a commercial on one of the basketball games the other night, but Reggie Miller and I think Luke Wilson, there's a new Miller Lite commercial out.
Mm-hmm.
The Miller Lite commercials back in the 80s and 90s, with Joe Piscopo and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest stuff in the history of the world. The Joe Piscopo, I got to play it. I got stuck on it. I was like, dude, because I thought Reggie did a good job. The Miller Lite commercial was good. And I was like, okay, this is nice. But my favorite is Miller Lite, the Rappin' Fats with Joe Piscopo. It kills me. All right. Take a listen to this. That's the bad version. I need a better version than that. This is better.
Us rap musicians like to think the best light beer is the one we drink. And every rapping cat I know drinks Miller Lite. Ain't that so? Taste great. Let's fill it. Taste great. Let's fill it. Lights got body. Lights got soul. Don't stop me now. I'm on a roll.
The Rappin' Fats.
Get it right. There's only one light beer from a Miller Lite.
So
How
good.
many people today know Joe Piscopo?
No one.
Nobody, right?
No, but he was big on Saturday Night Live, and then, of course, big in the commercials. I remember Bob Lanier was on the Miller Lite commercials.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was cool. All that stuff, man.
But Euchre, front row.
Dude.
That's such classic.
I think my favorite, one of my absolute favorite broadcast booths, Bob Costas and Bob Euchre working together on NBC for the World Series was sensational.
Yeah, they used to do Monday Night Baseball together on that NBC package.
That World Series, it was the Padres and Yankees. You covered the series back in '98.
I did, yeah.
And the local guy, Scott Brocious, won the MVP for that
He
series.
did. Yeah.
It was Euchre and Costas on the series. I was getting an education in broadcasting because Costas is amazing and Euchre's amazing, and the two of them together were fabulous.
And Costa's so buttoned down, but you could always get him laughing too.
Yeah, because the great thing about Euchre is you can be as buttoned down as you want. Euchre's going to be Euchre.
You got to get some. You got to get some of those appearances on the Tonight Show for people to hear because they have no idea. He's straight faced. He never cracked a smile talking about his own career and how bad it was.
Yeah,
it was
the
just
best.
classic.
We went up when I was down. This is 20. I want to say 20. Early 2016, spring training of 2016. Me and Lo Neal, Joe Fortenbaugh, and our producer Cody, we went down for a spring training trip to check in on the A's and Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the games that we caught were the A's and Brewers, who were playing down there in Zona. Euchre was there, and we went up and got to say hi to him in the booth. And to me, that was and Cody couldn't believe it. I was just thrilled to be able to just say hi to him. And that was, because to me, he's one of those legends, right? I have the ultimate respect for him because I think he's terrific at his job. But what I love most about him is he's a radio guy at heart, right? He's done TV and everything else, but radio's his thing. Have you had a chance to interview him or spend time with him?
I've talked to him a couple of times, but I've had two friends work with him. My friend Kevin Young worked a season with him in Milwaukee, and he used to talk about the drop-ins. The U.S. Army had drop-ins,
yeah.
And usually they give you a little script, a little paragraph to read or something sometime during the broadcast. The Army would just say, "You do whatever you want." They don't care because they know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I remember Kevin telling me that one day he said, you got a neighbors giving you a bad time? Join the Army and get a tank. That was it. That's the drop. Join the Army and get a tank.
That's so good. Yeah, I like him a lot. I'm a big Euchre fan. You like him, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now you've given me an assignment for tonight. I'm going to go watch a bunch of Carson videos and pull up some Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, God.
The Dangerfield.
Record some of that, too, if you can, because it's great radio still. It's so funny.
Dangerfield was really good. His jokes were pretty wildly. He would get his point across. He was very crafty.
Well, yeah. Stuff with his wife and everything.
Yeah. It was great. His kid, his family, the way he self-deprecating humor,
Oh, yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Dr. Vinny Boom Bots. He would go see his doctor, Vinny Boom Bots. His attorney, he always joked about that. Getting a divorce from his wife.
But I haven't seen any late night show in my lifetime that even compares to
No.
the quality of Carson.
Yeah.
I mean, not even close. Letterman, Leno.
Nah, Leno wasn't even. Letterman's the closest. Dave was pretty good.
You didn't like Leno?
I like Letterman better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Letterman's really good, but compared to Carson.
Yeah.
And they all acknowledge that, too. They're all like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, Johnny was their idol, all those guys.
I think Seinfeld, I was listening to a story once where Seinfeld and Gary Shandling, they went and had dinner with Carson after he retired, somewhere out in Malibu, close to where he lived.
Yeah, Malibu, I think, is where he was. I think somewhere out that way.
Yeah. And Seinfeld said it was great because you're sitting down and having dinner with royalty. And you just listen. But the great thing about Carson is that, like most of those guys, he was insecure, too. He didn't know he was great.
He was known for being very insecure.
Crazy.
He went through a few wives, too. I think he was married like 4 or 5 times.
And he joked about that a lot, too.
Yeah, he did.
That cost him a few dollars.
Yeah. And they had so many bits, like the matinee lady and all that stuff, that he did.
The matinee lady is great, man.
Classic.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. A little story time with the Godfather. You got to love that. When we come back, is it time for Bo Nix yet?
We haven't had an update in about an hour, Chad. What can you do?
Is it time for Bo Nix? I need some more Bo Nix.
The Bo Nix update. There you go.
I guess we're going to talk about the Mariners looking pretty good right now with the pitching. The question is, can they get some run support? I feel like it's been the same story with them for like a decade.
Yeah. Please pick up a big bopper. Could you do that? Somebody hit the ball out of the ballpark?
Yeah, I guess what I want to ask you is, like, is this a year where they'll finally make an effort at the trade deadline to bring in someone that can bop?
I doubt it. Their front office is so conservative, so cautious. I don't think you can plan on it.
Idiots. All right. Rip City Drive. That was a quick commercial break because we listened to Rodney Dangerfield on Carson.
Hilarious.
So good.
God, the working conditions in here are not great tonight, Chad.
Not.
It's not a great workplace.
Broccoli. What can I say?
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm dying over here.
Refocus. All right, the Mariners. I want to believe they're going to get some hitting, man, because they got the starting pitching to do something special this year come postseason time.
You know, Chad, the big worry, and I know Mariner fans are obsessing about this right now. You get this window where you're getting great pitching. You got to capitalize on that because pitching is so fleeting. I mean, it could be gone a week from now. A couple of arms go down, and all of a sudden somebody can't locate their fastball or whatever. You got to maximize your good pitching. It could be so temporary. I've seen it happen with team after team after team, and it's not like you acquire those hitters. They're with you for a while, but the pitching, man, if you got good pitching, get some hitters. Go for it. This is the time to go for it.
Well, because remember, they didn't do anything last year either. And remember, because you thought, and it ended up being a mistake because they got hot at the end of the year, but they fell just short. And you thought that the front office was caught off guard, not expecting the run that they made at the end.
That's right.
And had they gone out and gotten the help that was necessary, they may have gotten into the postseason.
And the problem with that is you lose the confidence of your players, too. They're sitting in there in that clubhouse waiting.
Yeah.
And they see other teams loading up at the deadline, and you don't do it? No, that's not good.
And the reason why it's crazy is, you know how baseball, it's different than any other sport. Like, Arizona gets in. If you get hot at the right time, you can go straight to the World Series.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Especially with those type of arms. What a fine Castillo was to get him. He's been terrific for him.
Well, I mean, the Braves are the best offense in baseball last year and most of the time this year, and they took 2 out of 3 from them in this series and handled them, really. The other thing that bothers me about them, though, their infield defense is not good either. And that really hurts you, especially when you rely on your pitching, because it's going to allow extra at-bats for the other team to get. And they've got to shore up their defense and their offense.
This might be the right time to strike because Houston's off to a slow start.
Texas is too.
This is the time to capitalize, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Texas and Houston will figure it out, or are they just going to have?
They always do.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Houston; they always figure it out. Now they're not as good as they were. Some of these guys, like Bregman, I think he's older, Tucker's really going to be good, but I just think you better strike now. You're absolutely right. Get a lead now and then hold them off.
Yeah, because their big struggle the last couple of years is that they've had to battle down the stretch. They expend so much energy getting to the finish line.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to have some cushion and be in a position to where you don't have to grind like that down the stretch.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with the Rangers, this is a team that won the World Series last year. They've got confidence, and they expect to do well again this year. That's just what you do when you win a World Series. So don't waste this opportunity. That would be criminal for your fans.
All right, checking the scores right now. It's unfortunate. Boston's up by 22 points. Once again, the injuries.
Are they really?
Rearing their ugly heads. They're up by 22.
Yeah.
The Celtics are going to move on.
Too bad, Mike Gorman. Your last game as the Celtic broadcaster.
I mean, I thought the Celtics were going to win the series no matter what.
Sure.
But it would be a much more compelling series if Jimmy Butler were available. What about Dame and Giannis? Do you think they'll play Game 6, or is it going to be a little bit too soon?
I would think maybe Dame would.
Yeah.
I would think you'd wait a little while on Giannis.
Don't rush him back.
Yeah.
See, the thing is with the Pacers, like I'm sure the Bucks see it this way. There's a disadvantage having to go back to Indiana for Game 6. But when you're playing a team that doesn't defend, you've got a chance.
Well, and I think when you look at Dame and Giannis, I think Milwaukee figures if we can just get one of them back, that's enough offense to get them past Indiana.
Yeah.
We don't have to bring them both back. And if you bring them both back, you're taking an opportunity. You might lose one of them by bringing them back too soon. That would be my concern.
And you don't want to do that.
No.
I guess the way you have to look at it is, okay, if we can get past this series, what's the best situation to make sure we can have both guys moving forward. You might be able to get through Indiana, but obviously you're going to need Giannis and Dame moving forward if you got to play Boston or whoever.
Exactly, Chad. And with that team, you got to play the long game. They're built to go all the way. You got to think that way. You can't think, well, we just need to get to the next round. No, that's not good enough. You got to think about winning the whole thing. So whatever you have to do now, you better do it and then hope you can get by.
Who do you like in the game tonight with the Clippers and the Mavericks? Game 5 in L.A. You and I both agree whoever wins this game is going to take the series.
I like the Mavericks.
You think they'll bounce back?
It's just one of those back and forth series. And they played poorly the last time. They got off to a terrible start. They should be better this time. That's a wacky series, too, because there's been too much time in between the games.
I've just been conditioned over the course of many years. The Clippers are the Clippers. Like,
yeah, they're always going to be.
This is the type of game that they'll lose. They should win, but they're not going to win it. Because they always do that. So I'm anxious to see how things play out. I'm anxious. I want to see what James Harden does tonight. I'm going to tune in just to see what he does because he's been playing great basketball. I want to see if he can continue it tonight in a big-time game because if you win this game, you're in a prime position to win the series.
Do you want to tune in just to see how many times they show Steve Ballmer going crazy in the stands?
And he's a freak, man.
A maniac.
Freak, a billionaire, just red-faced, acting all crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why I like the Clippers tonight is because Luke is not a Huddy. And they're going to need they need Luka, maximum Luka to be able to get the job done.
I agree.
All right.
Show's over already?
Yeah, it went by fast.
Yeah, it did.
That was a quickie. All right. Big thanks to Michael Shacker. Shacker, we love you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you to Shacker's dog, Dino, who was here to provide moral support today.
Yes.
Can we get the Bo Nix update tomorrow?
Yes, we'll get another Bo Nix update.
Don't encourage him, Michael.
I'll be watching more Bo Nix videos tonight. And Dino was very helpful during the show planning process, too. Big thanks to Chris Burkhardt. And Kardashian will have Rip City Mornings tomorrow at 6 a.m. Justin Myers. I love that. The morning guy, the host especially, thinks he's a Kardashian.
The long-lost Kardashian.
The long-lost Kardashian, Justin Myers from the 541. Have a good night, Godfather.
You too.